My wife believed her toxic best friend's lies over me, destroying our marriage. When the truth came out, she tried to reconcile, but it was too late. Hi everyone. Before we get into the story, if you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's completely free, helps support the channel, and ensures you never miss future videos. Now, let's begin. I'm 35 years old and live in Denver. I recently finalized my divorce from my wife, Emma. We were together for 6 years and married for the last 2. Looking back now, I can't help but feel like I should have seen everything coming. The warning signs were there from the very beginning, but I kept ignoring them because I loved her, or at least, I believed I did. The biggest problem in our relationship had a name, Stacy. She was Emma's best friend, and from the moment I met her, I had a bad feeling. You know how sometimes you meet someone and instantly sense they're going to bring trouble? That's exactly how I felt about Stacy. She was loud, self-centered, and always needed to be the center of attention. Every time we were together, it felt like she was judging me, searching for something she could criticize. Emma never saw it that way. To her, Stacy was more than just a friend. They had been inseparable since college, and Stacy had supported her through every breakup and difficult moment in her life. Because of that history, Emma trusted her completely. I told myself I could tolerate Stacy because she was important to Emma. Unfortunately, Stacy had a talent for pushing people's buttons, especially mine. Things really started going downhill while we were planning our wedding. I proposed to Emma after 3 years of dating. We were already living together, and getting married felt like the natural next step. She was thrilled, and honestly, so was I. At first, everything seemed perfect. Then Stacy started inserting herself into every decision. It began with small things. She complained that our wedding colors were too plain. I ignored it because, honestly, who cares about someone else's opinion on a color scheme? Next, she criticized the catering. She insisted we needed a huge selection of vegan meals because half the guests would probably want them. The funny thing was, we only had about 2 vegan guests. Then came the request that completely shocked me. Stacy announced that she wanted her own special walk down the aisle before the bridesmaids. Yes, seriously. Her reasoning was that she'd been there through every breakup and every hardship Emma had faced, so the wedding should celebrate the people who had supported Emma, not just the marriage itself. At first, I honestly thought she was joking. Who actually asked for something like that? But when I looked at Emma, she wasn't laughing. She was actually considering it. I stepped in and told Emma that this was our wedding, not a performance for Stacy. Her sister was already the maid of honor, and that should have been enough. Instead of agreeing with me, Emma became defensive. She accused me of making a big deal out of something small. Meanwhile, Stacy acted like I had personally attacked her. She looked at me and said, "Wow, I didn't realize your fiancé was so controlling." That hurt. I expected Emma to stand up for me, but instead she gave in. Later, she told me, "It's just one little thing. If it makes her happy, what's the harm?" So Stacy got exactly what she wanted. She walked down the aisle with her own special entrance like it was her wedding instead of ours. I could even see my parents exchanging confused looks from the front row, but I forced myself to smile through the ceremony because I didn't want to ruin the day. I convinced myself things would get better once we were married. I thought Stacy would naturally step back and stop involving herself in our lives. I couldn't have been more wrong. If anything, she became even more involved after the wedding. Whenever Emma and I talked about making weekend plans, somehow Stacy was already included. Emma would casually say things like, "I already invited Stacy to come with us." Or she'd tell me, "Stacy thinks we should try this restaurant instead." It reached the point where it felt like we couldn't make a single decision without Stacy's opinion. Eventually, I tried bringing it up with Emma as gently as possible. I told her, "I love that you have such a close friend, but I feel like Stacy has become too involved in our marriage. Can we please set some boundaries?" Once again, Emma immediately became defensive. "She's my best friend," she said. "I can't just shut her out. You don't understand everything she's done for me." Maybe I didn't. I hadn't been there during their college years or all the difficult times they went through together. But I did understand one thing. Stacy had absolutely no respect for me or for our marriage. The sad part was that Emma was so caught up in protecting their friendship that she couldn't see what was happening right in front of her. For a long time, I tried convincing myself Stacy wasn't intentionally trying to drive a wedge between us. Maybe she simply didn't know when to step back. Maybe she didn't realize she was crossing boundaries. But deep down, I already knew the truth. Stacy simply didn't like me. The more she inserted herself into our lives, the more obvious it became. Looking back now, I often wonder why I didn't stand up for myself sooner. Maybe I thought it wasn't worth another argument. Maybe I was afraid that pushing back would push Emma away. Whatever the reason, staying silent was the biggest mistake I made. By refusing to set firm boundaries, I gave Stacy permission to keep interfering in our marriage. And by the time I finally realized how much damage had already been done, about a year into our marriage, Emma and I had finally settled into a comfortable routine. We both worked during the week, enjoyed regular date nights, and spent weekends binge-watching our favorite TV shows. Life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful, and I was happy with where we were. Then Stacy showed up at our front door. It was a Friday evening. Emma and I were getting ready to make tacos and watch a movie. I was standing in the kitchen chopping onions when the doorbell rang. Emma answered it, and within seconds I heard loud sobbing. When I looked around the corner, I saw Stacy clinging to Emma like someone who had just survived a disaster. She had a duffel bag over her shoulder, mascara running down her face, and she could barely stop crying. "He left me," she wailed. "I can't do this alone." Emma immediately brought her inside and gave me a quick look that silently said, "We'll talk later." I just stood there holding the kitchen knife, already feeling like our peaceful evening had disappeared. Stacy collapsed onto our couch and launched into a long story about how her boyfriend of 2 years, Jake, had suddenly broken up with her. Emma sat beside her, holding her hand and comforting her while listening to every word. I stayed in the kitchen and tried to focus on dinner, but it was impossible not to overhear everything. According to Stacy, Jake had ended the relationship through a text message because he didn't think they were compatible anymore. Naturally, Stacy insisted she'd been the perfect girlfriend and claimed Jake was simply an emotionally unavailable jerk. After a while, Emma gently asked, "Do you have anywhere to stay tonight?" Stacy sniffled and glanced toward me before quietly saying, "No. I can't go to my parents because they'll just tell me they warned me. My other friends are busy, and I didn't know where else to go." The moment she said that, I knew exactly what was coming. Emma turned to me. "Would it be okay if Stacy stayed here for a few days? Just until she gets back on her feet?" What was I supposed to say? Was I really going to tell my wife that her heartbroken best friend couldn't stay with us? So I forced a smile and nodded. "Yeah, of course." At first, I genuinely tried to be understanding. Breakups are painful, and I felt sorry for her. During those first few days, I mostly stayed out of her way and let Emma take care of everything. But before long, it became obvious that a few days wasn't going to be just a few days. By the end of the week, Stacy wasn't simply staying with us anymore. She was moving in. The guest room that Emma and I had always kept clean and organized quickly became a complete disaster. Clothes were scattered across the floor, thrown over the bed, and hanging from the chair. Empty coffee cups and takeout containers covered the nightstand. It looked more like a messy teenager's bedroom than the room of a 34-year-old woman. She also practically took over our living room. Every day, she'd stretch out across the couch in her pajamas, binge-watching reality shows with the volume turned all the way up. More than once, I'd come home from work to find her eating chips straight from a family-sized bag while watching another dating show. She barely even acknowledged me. Most days, she'd just mumble, "Hey," without taking her eyes off the television. The kitchen wasn't any better. Stacy wasn't much of a cook, but that didn't stop her from using nearly every pot and pan we owned. The problem was she never cleaned up after herself. Almost every morning I'd wake up to find dirty dishes overflowing from the sink, along with half-eaten meals and food left sitting on the counters. Eventually, I decided I had to talk to Emma. One evening I said, "I know Stacy's having a hard time, but she's treating our home like a hotel. This isn't fair to us." Emma sighed, clearly conflicted. "I know it's frustrating," she admitted, "but she doesn't have anywhere else to go. She just needs a little more time." "A little more time?" I repeated. "Emma, it's already been 2 weeks. How much longer is this supposed to last?" She hesitated before saying she'd talk to Stacy. Unfortunately, that conversation accomplished absolutely nothing. The moment Emma brought it up, Stacy immediately turned herself into the victim. "I'm sorry my presence is such a burden," she said dramatically, tears filling her eyes. "I'll leave if that's what you both want." Of course, Emma instantly tried to comfort her. "No, no. That's not what we mean. We just want to make sure you're okay." Watching it happen was incredibly frustrating. Stacy knew exactly how to manipulate Emma's emotions, and Emma fell for it every single time. The breaking point came about a month after Stacy moved in. One Saturday morning, I went into the backyard to grab some tools for a DIY project I had been working on. Instead, I found my power drill, my saw, and several other tools lying all over the patio. Right in the middle of the mess sat Stacy. She was surrounded by random pieces of scrap wood, happily painting them bright neon colors. I stared at the scene in disbelief. "What is all this?" I asked. Without showing even the slightest concern, she looked up and casually replied, "It's part of my therapy. My counselor suggested I do something creative to help process my emotions." I blinked. "You went through my tools." Without even asking for permission, Stacy had gone through my tools. When I confronted her, she simply shrugged. "I didn't think you'd mind." That was it. I'd finally had enough. I walked back into the house and found Emma in the kitchen. "She has to go," I said firmly. "I'm not asking anymore." Emma looked surprised by the seriousness in my voice. "What happened?" "She's treating our house like it's her personal playground," I replied. "I've been patient for an entire month, Emma, but this isn't working anymore. She needs to leave." Emma sighed and rubbed her temples. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll talk to her again." But this time, I wasn't leaving it up to Emma. I sat both of them down and spoke directly to Stacy. "We've done everything we could to support you through your breakup," I told her. "But it's been a month now, and this situation isn't sustainable anymore. You need to start looking for another place to stay." Stacy didn't take it well. She immediately accused me of being heartless and claimed I had no idea what she was going through. "You're seriously kicking me out when I'm at my lowest," she said, glaring at me. "Wow, some friend you are." I refused to let her guilt trip me. "I'm not telling you to leave today," I answered calmly. "But you've had plenty of time, and it's time to find somewhere else to live." Emma looked conflicted, but for the first time, she didn't defend Stacy. Within a week, Stacy packed her things and left. She stormed out, muttering under her breath that I'd always been controlling and that Emma deserved someone better than me. As I watched her drive away, I felt an enormous weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in weeks, our house finally felt like our home again. Unfortunately, I had a feeling we hadn't heard the last of Stacy. I was right. The real damage began on what seemed like an ordinary Saturday afternoon. Emma had gone out to brunch with Stacy, something they did regularly. I wasn't exactly excited about those outings anymore, but I'd stopped complaining months earlier. There didn't seem to be any point. Stacy was always going to be part of Emma's life, no matter how I felt about it. So I stayed home. I spent the afternoon running errands, doing laundry, grocery shopping, and taking care of a few things around the yard. Nothing unusual. When Emma came home later that day, I was in the kitchen putting away the groceries. I greeted her like I always did, but something immediately felt different. She barely acknowledged me. She quietly muttered, "Hey," then walked straight to the bedroom without another word. I stood there holding a bag of apples, wondering if I'd somehow done something to upset her. Maybe she just had a rough day. I shrugged it off and went back to unpacking the groceries. But as the day went on, her behavior only became stranger. She barely looked at me. Whenever I asked her something, she'd answer with a single word before going back to staring at her phone. A couple of times, I asked if everything was okay. Each time she simply replied, "I'm fine." She clearly wasn't. At first, I assumed Stacy had probably spent the whole brunch venting about another crisis, and Emma just needed time to process it. That night, things became even more uncomfortable. Emma barely touched her dinner before going to bed early. When I eventually came upstairs, she was lying on the far edge of the bed with her back toward me, pretending to be asleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, completely confused about what had happened. The next morning, I couldn't ignore it anymore. "Emma," I said, "seriously, what's going on? You've been acting strange ever since you got back from brunch." She stayed quiet for a moment before finally speaking. "I need to ask you something," she said. "And I need you to be honest." A knot immediately formed in my stomach. "Okay," I replied. "What is it?" She slowly turned to face me. Her expression was filled with both anger and pain. "Were you with another woman yesterday?" I stared at her in complete disbelief. "What? What are you talking about?" Her voice became sharper. "Stacy said she saw you in a parking lot. She said you were sitting in your car making out with another woman." For a few seconds, I honestly didn't know what to say. The accusation was so ridiculous that my first instinct was to laugh. But when I realized Emma was completely serious, my disbelief quickly turned into frustration. "Emma," I said, "that's insane. I wasn't with anyone. I was grocery shopping." "She described your car," Emma shot back. "She said you were wearing your brown jacket, and she even knew which parking lot it was, the one by the strip mall on Main Street." I felt like I was trapped in some bizarre nightmare. "Of course she knew the parking lot," I replied. "That's exactly where the grocery store is. I was there buying milk and bread, not kissing another woman." Emma crossed her arms. "Then why would Stacy say she saw you?" That question hurt more than the accusation itself. She didn't ask if Stacy could have been mistaken. She didn't wonder whether it might have been someone else. Instead, she immediately assumed Stacy had to be telling the truth. "I don't know, Emma," I said, my voice rising. "Why don't you ask her?" "Because I didn't do anything wrong." But she wasn't listening. "I don't know what to believe," she whispered, shaking her head. "Stacy wouldn't lie about something like this." Those words hit me harder than anything else. After 6 years together, after everything we'd been through, my own wife couldn't trust me over Stacy. I stood up and began pacing around the room. "You've known me for 6 years." I looked at Emma in complete disbelief. "You've known me for 6 years," I said. "Do you honestly think I'd cheat on you? And in a parking lot, of all places? Does that even sound like something I'd do?" Emma didn't answer. She just sat there silently, staring down at her hands. After a long pause, she finally whispered, "I need time to think." The next few days were absolute hell. Emma barely spoke to me at all. She moved into the guest room because she said she needed space. Every time I tried to bring up what had happened, she shut the conversation down. "I'm not ready to talk." "Oh, I just need more time." Meanwhile, I was stuck in a constant state of anger and disbelief. I couldn't stop thinking about Stacy. Creating chaos was exactly the kind of thing she enjoyed, but what I couldn't understand was why. Why would she go this far? Why would she invent something so serious? Did she really hate me that much? But as much as Stacy's actions bothered me, there was something even harder to accept. Emma's reaction. The fact that she never gave me the benefit of the doubt said more about our marriage than Stacy's lie ever could. If my own wife trusted Stacy's word over mine, what did that say about our relationship? About a week later, Emma packed a bag and left. She didn't even tell me where she was going. All she said was that she needed time to figure things out. By then, I was too emotionally drained to argue. So I let her go. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from her. "I think it's best if we separate for now. My lawyer will send you the paperwork." That was it. No conversation. No attempt to work things out. Just a text message and a lawyer. It felt unreal. Our entire marriage had been thrown away because of one ridiculous story. I didn't even know how to process it. Part of me wanted to fight for us. I wanted to prove I was innocent and somehow make Emma see the truth. But another part of me was simply exhausted. If she was willing to end everything so easily, maybe there wasn't anything left worth saving. Over the following weeks, things only got worse. Word spread that Emma and I had separated, and Stacy made sure everyone heard her version of the story. Mutual friends started acting differently around me. Some avoided eye contact. Others made vague comments about how I should work on myself. Even members of my own family started asking uncomfortable questions. Is there any truth to what people are saying? It felt like I was living in a nightmare. Everywhere I turned, someone seemed to believe I was the bad guy. And through all of it, Emma remained completely silent. No phone calls. No messages. No attempts to hear my side of the story. Nothing. At first, I was furious. angrier than I'd ever been in my life. But as the days turned into weeks, that anger slowly disappeared. What replaced it was something much colder. Acceptance. If Emma couldn't trust me enough to even have an honest conversation, then maybe I didn't need her in my life anymore. I wasn't going to beg someone to believe me. If she wanted to stay under Stacy's influence, that was her choice. I was done fighting for a marriage where I always came second to her so-called best friend. If this was how everything ended, then so be it. About 2 months after Emma left, something happened that completely caught me off guard. It was a Thursday evening. I was sitting alone eating dinner while mindlessly scrolling through my phone when I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. It read, "Hi. This is Marissa. I know Stacy lied about you. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen for several seconds. Who was Marissa? The name sounded vaguely familiar. Then I remembered. I'd met her once at a party that Emma and Stacy had dragged me to a couple of years earlier. But why was she contacting me now? At first, I thought about ignoring the message. Then one sentence kept replaying in my mind. I know Stacy lied about you. Curious, I replied. What do you mean? What lie? Her answer came almost immediately. The cheating story. Stacy admitted she made it up. I think you need to see the proof. The next day, I met Marissa at a small coffee shop downtown. She was already waiting near the window when I arrived, nervously tapping her phone with both hands. That I sat down across from her, unsure whether to feel hopeful or terrified. "Thanks for meeting me," she said. "Honestly, I wasn't sure you'd even want to." "Well," I replied, "I'm here." I leaned forward. "So, what is this about Stacy lying?" Marissa took a deep breath before pulling out her phone. "I've been friends with Stacy for a long time," she explained. "But after everything that's happened, I can't stay quiet anymore. You deserve to know the truth." She unlocked her phone, opened a conversation, and slid it across the table toward me. I started reading. The messages between her and Stacy left me completely speechless. Stacy ONG. Emma finally left him. She actually believed me. LOL. Marissa what are you talking about? Marissa had asked Stacy in the messages. Stacy replied, I told Emma I saw him making out with some random woman in his car. You should have seen the look on her face. It was priceless. Marissa responded immediately. Wait, are you serious? Why would you do that? Stacy didn't hesitate. Because he's a controlling jerk, and she's too dumb to see it. I had to help her. As I kept reading, my hands started shaking. The messages only got worse. Their marriage probably wasn't going to last anyway. Stacy wrote. Emma's so gullible she'll believe anything I tell her. Marissa replied. This is seriously messed up, Stacy. Stacy's response made my stomach turn. Whatever. She's better off without him. Besides, now I don't have to keep hearing about her perfect marriage anymore. I couldn't read another word. My jaw was clenched so tightly it actually hurt. Slowly, I handed the phone back to Marissa. She really said all of that? I asked quietly. Marissa nodded, looking genuinely ashamed. Yeah, she said. She was bragging about it like she'd accomplished something. At first I thought she was joking, but then she started making fun of Emma for being so naive. That's when I realized how twisted this really was. I just sat there, trying to process everything. Stacy hadn't simply told a lie. She had deliberately destroyed my marriage. Even worse, she had manipulated her own best friend and then laughed about it afterward. All because of jealousy, entitlement, and spite. After a long silence, I finally asked, Why are you telling me this now? Why didn't you come forward sooner? Marissa looked down at her coffee. I don't know, she admitted. I guess I was scared. Stacy can be intense, but I couldn't stay quiet anymore. This isn't fair to you, and it isn't fair to Emma either. Before leaving, I took screenshots of every message and thanked Marissa for finally telling me the truth. The drive home was a blur. I kept replaying everything I'd just read. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was furious. Furious at Stacy for being so manipulative and cruel. Furious at Emma for believing such an outrageous lie without even giving me a chance to defend myself. and furious at myself for allowing Stacy to get away with so much for so long. At the same time, I also felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. For weeks I'd been carrying the weight of wondering whether I'd somehow failed my marriage. Now I finally had proof. None of this had been my fault. Stacy had set the entire thing in motion, and Emma had walked straight into her trap. By the time I got home, my anger had settled into something much colder. Determination. I wasn't going to lose control. I wasn't going to scream or throw accusations around. I was going to handle this the right way. The first thing I did was forward all of the screenshots to my lawyer with a short message. Asterisk, this is what really happened. Let me know how we can use it. Asterisk, after that, I sat on my couch staring at my phone. Part of me didn't even want to contact Emma. What was the point? She'd already made it clear where her loyalty was. But another part of me believed she deserved to know the truth, even if it didn't change anything between us. Eventually, I typed a simple message. Asterisk, we need to talk. It's important. Asterisk, her reply came much faster than I expected. Asterisk, what do you want? Asterisk, I answered just as briefly. Asterisk, I have proof that Stacy lied. You need to see it. Can we meet? Asterisk, several minutes passed before another message appeared. Asterisk, fine. Tomorrow afternoon. Where? Asterisk, I suggested a park near her new apartment. She agreed. That was all. I wasn't trying to win her back. That ship had already sailed. I simply wanted her to know the truth and finally clear my name. The next afternoon, I met Emma at the park. On the way there, part of me wanted to shove the screenshots in her face and let her deal with the consequences. But I knew I had to stay calm. The last thing I wanted was for her to dismiss me as emotional or dramatic. When Emma arrived, she looked hesitant, almost nervous. She was dressed casually in a hoodie and jeans, but something about her seemed different. The confidence she used to carry was gone. She spotted me, gave a small wave, and slowly walked over. So, what's this about? She asked, folding her arms across her chest. I didn't waste any time. I unlocked my phone, opened the screenshots Marissa had sent me, and handed it over. Read them, I said quietly. Emma looked confused but took the phone. As she scrolled through the messages, I watched her expression slowly change. At first she looked calm. Then her eyes widened. Her mouth slowly fell open. By the time she reached the final message, all the color had drained from her face. Her hands were shaking as she gave my phone back. She lied, she whispered, almost to herself. Yeah, I replied, doing my best to keep my voice steady. She lied about everything. She made up the entire cheating story just to break us apart. And apparently she thought it was funny. Emma slowly sat down on the nearby bench, staring at the ground. I didn't know, she said quietly. I never thought she'd. You never thought she'd lie to you. I interrupted. My voice came out sharper than I intended. That's the problem, Emma, I said. You didn't think. You didn't stop for even a second to question what Stacy told you. You just believed her and threw me under the bus. She flinched, but she didn't say a word. Do you have any idea how humiliating these past few months have been? I continued. My friends, my family, even my coworkers started looking at me like I was some kind of dirtbag. All because you couldn't take 2 minutes to ask me what actually happened. Tears filled her eyes. I thought I was doing the right thing, she whispered. Stacy has been my best friend for years. I trusted her. Yeah, I replied. And that trust just cost you your marriage. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, she cried. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I let out a slow breath. My tone softened, but I didn't back down. That's exactly the problem, Emma. You didn't know because you never gave me the chance to explain. You trusted her more than your own husband, and that says everything about how you viewed our relationship. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. The silence between us felt heavier than anything either of us could have said. Finally, Emma broke it. I'll cut her off, she said quietly. I'll never speak to Stacy again. We can fix this. We'll go to counseling. We'll work through it. I'll do whatever it takes. I sighed and ran a hand through my hair. Part of me wanted to believe her. I really did. But deep down, I already knew it was too late. The damage had been done the moment she chose Stacy's word over mine without hesitation. I don't think we can fix this, I said honestly. She stared at me in disbelief. It's not just about what Stacy did. It's about how quickly you believed her and how little faith you had in me. That's not something counseling can magically repair. Emma broke down completely. I was so stupid, she sobbed. I should have talked to you. I should have trusted you. Please, just give me one more chance. Slowly, I shook my head. I'm sorry, Emma. I can't. This isn't only about forgiving you. It's about trust. Once that's gone, it's almost impossible to get back. She kept crying. For a brief moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered every lonely night I'd spent wondering what I'd done wrong. I remembered the friends who disappeared because they believed Stacy's lies. I remembered questioning my own worth because of how quickly my wife had abandoned me. And just like that, whatever sympathy I had disappeared. I think it's best if we both move on, I said as I stood up. I wish things had turned out differently, but this is where we are now. Emma didn't try to stop me. She just sat there on the bench with her face buried in her hands, crying. I walked away without looking back. For the first time in months, I finally felt like I had my life back. Later that night, Emma sent me a long message apologizing again and begging me to reconsider. I never replied. There wasn't anything left to say. Stacy's lie may have started everything, but Emma's lack of trust was what truly destroyed our marriage. By that point, I had no interest in trying to repair something that had already been broken beyond saving. Instead, I forwarded the screenshots to several mutual friends who had ghosted me after the accusations. I didn't include any explanation. I simply let the messages speak for themselves. Within a few hours, my phone was flooded with texts. Asterisk, I can't believe Stacy actually did that. Asterisk, asterisk, I'm so sorry for doubting you. Asterisk, asterisk, you didn't deserve any of this. Asterisk, asterisk, please let me know if there's anything I can do. Asterisk, it was nice to finally be vindicated. But I wasn't interested in rebuilding those friendships. If they'd been willing to believe the worst about me without hearing my side, they weren't the kind of people I wanted around anymore. As for Stacy, I never bothered confronting her. What would have been the point? She'd already shown me exactly who she was. I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of knowing how much damage she'd caused. A few days later, I started hearing updates through a couple of mutual friends I hadn't completely cut off. I figured they were reaching out because they felt guilty for taking Stacy's side. One afternoon, my friend Sarah called me. You're not going to believe this, she said. Stacy has basically been blacklisted from the entire friend group. Apparently, once the screenshots started circulating, people quickly began distancing themselves from her. Marissa had shared the messages with a few close friends, and from there the truth spread like wildfire. Stacy tried defending herself. She claimed she'd only been trying to protect Emma and insisted that I was controlling and toxic. This time, though, nobody believed her. She's completely falling apart, Sarah said with a laugh. She's posting these long emotional rants on social media about how everyone has turned against her and how she's the real victim. Curious, I looked up Stacy's social media using an incognito browser. Sure enough, her profiles were filled with dramatic posts about fake friends abandoning her and people refusing to appreciate everything she'd done. One post actually read, asterisk, I guess people just can't handle the truth. I stood up for Emma when nobody else would, and now somehow I'm the villain. Pathetic. Asterisk, the comments, however, weren't going the way she'd hoped. Most people were calling her out. One person wrote, asterisk, you didn't protect anyone. You destroyed a marriage. Asterisk, another commented, asterisk, this is exactly what happens when you manipulate people. Asterisk, someone else simply said, asterisk, maybe stop blaming everyone else and take a hard look at yourself. Asterisk, I won't lie. Watching her finally face the consequences of her own actions was satisfying. Meanwhile, Emma's life wasn't going much better. She moved back. After everything fell apart, Emma moved back in with her parents. From what I heard, things weren't going well. Her mother had never completely trusted Stacy, and when she finally learned the truth about what had happened, she was furious. One of our mutual friends told me about a heated argument between Emma and her mom. Apparently, her mother looked at her and said, asterisk, you threw away a good man because you believed a liar. How could you be so stupid? Asterisk, it was harsh. But honestly, she wasn't wrong. Emma tried to rebuild her life, but nothing seemed to be falling into place. She reached out to some of our old friends, hoping to reconnect, but the responses were mixed. A few people were willing to forgive her. Most weren't. They had watched how quickly she'd turned against her own husband without giving him a chance to explain. If she could do that to me, they figured she could do the same to anyone. During one of the few conversations I still had with Sarah, she told me, "Emma looks miserable. She's trying to act like she's okay, but it's obvious she regrets everything." A few weeks later, I got another unexpected update. This time, it was from Marissa. She sent me a simple message. Asterisk, thought you'd want to know. Stacy got fired today. Asterisk, it turned out that Stacy's reputation had finally caught up with her at work. People had found out about everything she'd done. Her coworkers slowly started avoiding her. Apparently, she'd always been known for creating drama around the office, but after the truth came out, nobody wanted anything to do with her anymore. Eventually, her manager became aware of all the tension and decided to let her go, citing ongoing interpersonal issues. I'd like to say I felt sorry for her. I didn't. She had spent years manipulating people, creating conflict, and making everyone else's lives harder. Now she was finally experiencing the consequences of her own actions. As for me, life only kept getting better. Several months after everything happened, I unexpectedly ran into Marissa at a coffee shop. We sat down, caught up for a while, and eventually the conversation turned to Emma and Stacy. Marissa smiled and shook her head. "You won't believe this," she said. "Emma actually reached out to Stacy a few weeks ago." I raised an eyebrow. "Seriously? What happened?" "Emma tried to apologize," Marissa explained. "She said she wanted to move past everything and repair their friendship." I couldn't help being curious. "And?" Marissa rolled her eyes. Stacy laughed right in her face. I stared at her. "Seriously?" She nodded. She called Emma pathetic for even trying and told her she was better off without her. I just shook my head. "That sounds exactly like Stacy," I said. "Taking responsibility has never been one of her strengths." Marissa laughed. "Well, I guess they are both dealing with the consequences of their own choices. Looking back now, I can't honestly say I'm glad everything happened. No one wants to lose a marriage like that. But I am grateful for where my life ended up." Emma and Stacy's friendship had always been toxic. It was only a matter of time before it exploded. Unfortunately, I happened to be caught in the middle of it. In the end, though, they destroyed each other. I was the one who walked away with a fresh start. Life has a strange way of balancing things out. Sometimes karma doesn't show up right away, but when it finally does, it hits hard. Emma and Stacy learned that lesson the difficult way. And honestly, I'm at peace with it. They made their choices. Now they have to live with the consequences. As for me, I've moved on. I've built a life that genuinely makes me happy. I'm surrounded by people who trust me, respect me, and actually care about me. In the end, that's the greatest revenge I could have asked for.